So let's just jump right into learning about photography. So I've numbered 4 categories for you, and if you like taking notes and having things written down, this would be something you would jot down. Otherwise, you would have access to the slides. So there are kind of 4 categories that you are going to be responsible for knowing when you take pictures and labeling them this week. So the first category is just the composition of a photo, how it's put together, the angles, some terms that I'll be teaching you that maybe you don't know yet, like leading lines, framing, filling the frame, rule of thirds, repetition, and depth of field. So I'm going to show you some examples of that with some homestead photos coming up in just a minute. But those are your primary photo composition techniques. You can have more than one of them at play in a photo at a time. Okay, so that's probably a key to jot down, that you can have more than one. You can have repetition and rule of thirds and fill the frame and a unique angle all in one photo. Okay, the second category, typically you're just going to have one, most likely. It's either going to be a newsworthy shot, an emotional shot, an intimate shot, which means you're right up in the action, or it's just a really unusual photo for some reason. The biggest thing is that you do want to try as much as possible to use rule of thirds in all of your pictures, but then you can use a variety of other types of photo composition techniques, as you'll see in some of the examples in a minute. The third and fourth category have to do with angles and then how the shots are used. So you can have a wide angle, medium angle, close-up, or an extreme close-up. And then especially for yearbook, either a vertical picture, which is when you hold your phone or camera up and down, or the horizontal picture like the horizon where it goes across. Typically for design, we try to take a variety of both types of shots. Biggest thing is you want, especially if you're going outside in the sun, you want the light source to your back. So you want the light to your back. And rather than zooming in and compromising the photo quality, you want to take one giant step forward rather than zooming in. So when you think you're ready to take the shot, take one step forward. And then the way that shots are used, vary. So you can have a cover shot, like if you think about Sports Illustrated or People magazine, where you have the big vertical kind of face shot or full body shot. A lot of times in news, we do an establishing shot, like the Highlander walkway would establish that we are at Homestead. You see that a lot of time in the news, the reporter is standing outside someplace to establish where they are. A detail shot is a little bit closer up shot, so you can see some of the details and specifics. A closing shot, a lot of times, is to provide, like in a video, that things are wrapping up. So a lot of times it would be people from the back, the backs of them walking away, or the cliche wedding photo of the couple holding hands and walking into the sunset. And then you can have a filler shot. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of what these terms look like in actual photos. So this is what a rule of thirds grid looks like. And so typically what you want to see is the action occurring on those 4 points where the lines intersect there. So you can see that she's not in the center of the photo. The catcher's body is to the right of the 2 intersecting points there, to the right of the frame. This would be a newsworthy shot because it only happened in one moment in time, this exact play where she's grabbing the ball. If you didn't catch it in that moment, you couldn't catch it again. You could stage it, but it's newsworthy because it's happening right now and you were there to catch it. Here's another example of rule of thirds, where you can see the vaulter is to the right of the frame, and it's newsworthy because you're there when it's actually happening. Here you can see leading lines and potentially repetition because you have the players in a repeated pattern, creating lines that lead to the tunnel there, to the end where the players are running out. It's a newsworthy shot because, again, you are there when the action is happening. This also uses leading lines and repetition because you have the repeated hurdles. You have the lines of the hurdles leading to that sort of rectangular part framing the runner, which creates a unique angle. Obviously, this photographer had to be kneeling down on the track to take this picture. Here also you have leading lines with the fence leading to the last person standing there in the crowd. You have a unique angle because you're not taking the picture from straight on. And also it shows emotion. You want to try to capture people when they're not looking at you. It's like anytime you have a camera, people want to stare right at you. But this is kind of like you caught them without them really knowing, which is a great shot. Here's also an intimate or unusual shot just because it's not about a person, it's about more details. Depth of field is when the back area, the background of the picture is blurred. Portrait mode in phones, now that's what those do. It blurs out the background and puts some part of the photo in focus, and the leading lines of the post there draw your eye to the back of the photograph. Here, this also shows depth of field because it's blurring out a portion of the picture in order to focus in on the 1896. We always want to go for, again, action and emotion shots, not people looking at the camera right in the moment. So that's a great shot. Obviously, this photographer also was at their level. We call that a worm's eye view, where you're like a worm on the ground, getting down to their level. You can also take pictures from a bird's eye view, where you climb up and sort of look down. You may have seen those cool photos. Also, they're like in the middle of a huddle, looking up at the players or looking down onto the huddle, which is really cool. Those are just fun, unique shots because you can tell the photographer put some thought into it. This could indicate a closing shot, the end of a race, the end of a long meet. It's intimate because it creates a feeling or emotion, and obviously taken from the back, and you can tell kind of by the lighting that it indicates maybe the end of the night. This is an extreme close-up that fills the entirety of the frame. There is no dead space in the frame of this picture, and we had to move in close to the subject. So that's an intimate shot, and you could even go closer and focus in on one eye as well. This is a close-up detail shot, so it uses depth of field as well because you can see the blurring out of the background. These are nice shots to get maybe for design, where you can layer a story over the top of the dead space of the photo, and it's just kind of an interesting shot. Here's a great close-up intimate shot from prom. Again, we know it's prom without having to say anything or see any faces because of the details that go along with prom are in the photo. And then this would be how the photos are actually used. So you can see the extreme close-up for the cover shot and the full body close-up on the right. And then establishing shots to set the scene. Those are typically wide angle so that you can see the setting in the background to establish where you are. These would be examples of more extreme close-ups, detail shots showing specifics of something, a ring, rocks, spokes of a wheel. Here's some closing shots and leading lines. So again, indicating maybe the end of an event, showing some emotion. Unusual shot and framing using the rear view mirror there. And then kind of being that fly on the wall using rule of thirds for the emotional wedding shot. A newsworthy shot of something happening. An intimate shot, again, creates an emotion, doesn't have to have a face. It just has details that create a mood to it. All right, so that was kind of a quick rundown. So we're going to be practicing these techniques throughout the week.